Look, I forgot to ask you about NATO then, because that's again in the rumors, and rumors really.
So I think NATO's in the midst of a really big change. In a way, we saw these arguments about NATO during the Bush administration, Obama administration, and Trump. And in general, as the U.S. is kind of detaching, it's in a way it's giving it's deputizing different forces to run different regions, and it's hoping that it would still stay in control. I don't think it will. So I think they're in a way saying to France and Germany, you guys take over NATO. You guys better step forward. Remember Obama said we're going to lead from behind while they were killing Gaddafi. So that was kind of where they really started to break away and encouraging France and Germany. Now Germany is rearming. They made a big decision this week to rearm. They're even talking about conscripting young people to be soldiers, actually all the way up to 60 years old to be soldiers. So NATO was formed partly to hold down Germany after World War II. I mean, it became an excuse also to be a shield against the Soviet Union. But in a way, the U.S. and the Soviet Union kind of almost had some sort of agreement to respect each other's empires, and because they felt that they had to hold Germany down. So when Gorbachev and Bush Sr. Decided to allow Germany to reunite, East and West Germany, the U.S. promised Gorbachev that they wouldn't keep on expanding NATO, and they have. And so that's what's really caused the anger from Putin's side, is that the terms of agreement to end the Cold War and allow Germany to reunite was that NATO wouldn't keep expanding. But it's continued to. And I'm suspecting it's going to, because of the sacrifices the Europeans are going to have to make in terms of energy costs and everything else, if they're going to shut themselves off from Europe, their economy could become pretty rough. And the American, even Wall Street is aware of this, and they're becoming very nervous that, how can Europe, do well if they're not going to be buying Russian energy? And so there's very big concern about that, that there will be, in a way, class struggle. And the German government just recently changed with Angela Merkel leaving, and she was from East Germany, and she was more pro-Russian. She spoke Russian. So now the new government in Germany is probably going to be more anti-Russian and more independent of the U.S. So I think that's what's going to happen. Whether or not members of NATO will keep on joining, whether it will split up, and NATO and the EU are overlap, but they're not identical. You can be a member of the European Union but not be a member of NATO, right? Some countries don't want to be in NATO because it then puts them in more confrontation with Russia, like Finland and Sweden. They're part of the EU, but they're not part of NATO. They may become as a result of all this, but prior to this crisis, they were EU members but not NATO members. And there were a number of countries in that category that wanted the economic, and Finland and Sweden are EU members, but they're as of today, as far as I know, they're not in NATO. Versus Norway, which is in NATO and the EU, both. So it's important. One is an economic, socioeconomic structure. That's what the European Union is, for trade and population and rule of law. And then NATO is a military organization.
What's your opinions on Russia stopping black people from accessing. I think I saw a video.
Well, it was in Ukraine, yeah, I saw it was very tragic and horrifying. The Ukrainians were insisting that Ukrainians get to flee first. And then obviously visible minority is easy to point out, you're probably not Ukrainian. So, but, imagine all of our, kids and friends, in Ukraine that went there for university, for medical school or whatever. And they're, I have a friend who's not African, but he was still stuck on the Ukrainian side of the border for 30 hours outside in the cold. So it was pretty miserable for everybody, even if they weren't African. But I think it really hurt horribly people here to see that they couldn't get on the bus. You can't help but think back to, Rosa Parks. Can't even get into the back of the bus. So I shouldn't be laughing. It's a horrible, tragic situation. But it wasn't only Africans who suffered. Just all foreigners were suffering there. My friend who was suffering, he's from, I think, Estonia or Latvia. And like I said, he was camped outside in the cold for 30 hours.
Is it black?
No, he's not black. He's way paler than me. And funny enough, he's one of my few friends who has visited me here in Uganda. I've only had 2 of my friends from the US or Canada visit me here. None of my other... I felt really bad for Mart. So, yeah, and he said it was real easy once he crossed the border into Poland. He said it took just 45 minutes to get through their customs and checking, but 30 hours on the Ukrainian side. And he told me there were Africans in line with him. So it wasn't just Africans getting the shaft, but still those images were just horrifying.